Key races in New York, New Jersey and Virginia are coming down to the wire. We've got Fox team coverage on the campaign trail in just a moment. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jonathan Hunt, in for Kayleigh McEnany, and we begin in the Big Apple, where Andrew Cuomo is closing in on Zohran Mamdani's lead for New York City's next mayor. CB Cotton, as she has been for a very long time, is following the race closely as the candidates make their final push. Good Saturday morning to you, CB.
Hey, Jonathan, great to be with you. Well, these candidates are definitely locked in a high-stakes push to sway voters during their final days on the campaign trail. Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani is delivering some of his final pitches on affordability. This week, the 34-year-old New York State Assemblyman joined seniors for Tai Chi, telling New Yorkers that the city's prices are too high, buses too slow, and childcare too expensive. But he said the cost crisis is also impacting senior citizens.
Sometimes I've been frustrated by the way in which people think cost of living is a young person's issue. Because what I've actually found time and again is that cost of living is affecting every single New Yorker, no matter their age.
While Mamdani's message on affordability has seemed to help him remain the front runner in most polls, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, running as an independent, predicts historic voter turnout will help him flip the race. So he's gotten a wave of late endorsements from figures like Michael Bloomberg and former Governor David Paterson. Cuomo is warning voters that Mamdani is untested and that the stakes are too high.
He is a socialist, and socialism will not work in New York City. New York City has no future as a socialist city. Socialism hasn't worked anywhere on the globe.
Meanwhile, Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa is vowing to stay in the race, telling Fox this week, quote, "The billionaires, the influencers, the insiders have been wrong every step of the way." And he added that the race is going to come down to one person, one vote. Jonathan, there have been 7 days of early voting so far here in the Big Apple, and already nearly 500,000 ballots have been cast, according to the New York City Board of Elections. And get this, that total surpasses the 384,000 ballots cast during the June Democratic primary. So it appears people are very eager to have their voice heard with this election. Back over to you.
CB, no one's followed this as closely as you. And I wonder, do you see this as very much a generational divide here? The young people who seem to be going towards Mamdani versus perhaps some older New Yorkers who might lean towards Cuomo. Is that the big split here, and therefore does it end up being a turnout decision on Tuesday?
I definitely think a generational divide is playing a role in this really heated race, Jonathan. According to the latest polls that Fox News is tracking, former Governor Andrew Cuomo is polling better with voters over the age of 50, whereas self-described Democratic socialist Zohran Mamdani is polling better with younger voters. And the Mamdani campaign attributes that to their social media-driven push, which former Governor Andrew Cuomo has said he's tried to make up for in some of the last weeks on the campaign trail. So there's going to be a lot to watch for, and we know it all comes to an end this coming Tuesday. We're going to keep an eye on it. Back over to you.
No one's looking forward to that more than CB Cotton in New York. Thanks so much, CB, for all your work. Meantime, former President Barack Obama returning to the campaign trail today to shore up support for Democrats in 2 high-stakes governor's races. He'll join Abigail Spanberger in Virginia before dropping in on a New Jersey rally for Mikey Sherrill. Senior national correspondent Rich Edson live in Norfolk with all the latest on those races. Good morning, Rich.
Good morning, Jonathan. They have been lined up here for hours to see former President Barack Obama for an event that doesn't start for another 4.5 hours here in Norfolk, Virginia. After this, the former president goes up to Newark, New Jersey to rally Democrats there, trying to put Democrats in governor's mansions here in Virginia and up in New Jersey. Back here in Virginia, it's Democratic Congresswoman, the former Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, who's running. She says that her lead in the polls here will deliver her a decisive Victory Tuesday. Her closing argument, she's a moderate who works with Republicans while criticizing them on the cost of living and DOGE cuts in a state where there are more than 300,000 federal workers. Republicans say Spanberger pretends to be a moderate, but is as liberal as they come. Spanberger's Republican challenger, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears, points out that Spanberger refuses to support banning biological boys from girls' locker rooms or call for Democratic Attorney General candidate Jay Jones to drop out of the race following his violent texts. The country's only other governor's race is in New Jersey. Republican Jack Ciattarelli against Democrat Mikey Sherrill. Sherrill is campaigning in North Jersey this morning and setting high expectations for a race that some polls show is a tight one.
New Jersey is a blue state. That's right. That is right. I have seen the polling numbers, guys. I've seen it. So when we vote, we win.
Meanwhile, Ciattarelli will be campaigning in Central Jersey in a little bit. We'll have our eyes on it. Jonathan, back to you.
Rich, great to see you. Thank you so much. Here to dig into all the races with us now is Pepperdine Public Policy Adjunct Professor Gloria Romero. Gloria, great to have you with us in our LA studio today. Let's start with New Jersey. Mikey Sherrill seems to be hanging on to a lead. Jack Ciattarelli appears to think he has a chance, and he's saying he's getting more and more support from other Democrat officials. Let's listen quickly to Jack Ciattarelli here.
When Democratic mayors are endorsing the Republican nominee, it tells you how badly people want change. We've racked up at least 12 Democratic mayors that have endorsed me. 8 years of failures by Phil Murphy, 25-year reign by the Democrats in our legislature, and my opponents endorsed every single one of Murphy's failed policies. If she were to win, it's just more of the same, only worse.
But Gloria, Ciattarelli trailing by around 8 points in the latest polls that we've seen. Does he have a chance to close that gap with just 3 days to go?
Absolutely. What we're seeing in New Jersey, and I would say in New York as well, is really the realignment of the Democratic Party, the fight for the heart and soul, and what a party even stands for. So the fact that the Democratic governor candidate in New Jersey is saying, we're a blue state, she's completely gone bonkers. Because if it's such a blue state, the fight for this right now, the closest in the polls, calling in the big gun Barack Obama, wouldn't be happening. This is clearly showing that this is a real possibility, and I think it signals across the country that this is exactly what's happening with many Democrats like me in the past walking away from a Democratic Party that's gone too woke. So I'd say watch Jack. I think it's a real chance. And if he does pull it off in New Jersey, it sends a major signal to the rest of the country. Let's go.
What about Virginia? Abigail Spanberger, also a healthy lead there at the moment. Do you see that one closing in these last few days?
I'm hoping, but I think that of the three races we're looking at, that probably is the one that's the most difficult to turn around at the gubernatorial level. But certainly the other one where the candidate was calling for the death of the children of his opponents, I think definitely that goes Republican.
Okay. Then let's go to New York City, which is a race that everybody is talking about, obviously, because of Zohran Mamdani's, in the eyes of a lot of people, extreme positions. They are extremely attractive, it seems, to a lot of young people in New York City. Cuomo has closed a little bit. He's got a lot of criticism for the way he's run his campaign, a lack of enthusiasm on the candidate's part, that some people have seen. He believes he is going to pull it out of the bag in the end because he says, and we'll play the clip here, because he says people will realize that a Mamdani mayor would be very bad for New York businesses. Here's Andrew Cuomo.
You have had this steady increase of hostility towards the business community. High taxes, high regulations, this mentality that business is bad, wealth is bad, redistribute wealth, tax the rich. We had a big project that could have come to New York that I worked on for a long time, the Amazon headquarters 25,000 jobs. The socialists stopped it. So they chased businesses away.
So is that a message that will get through ultimately, do you believe?
It is getting through. And I think, if anything, I mean, we remember the thriller in Manila. This is the thriller in New York City. And there's so much at stake, including, again, that internal fight within the Democratic Party. I mean, think about it. Cuomo is a name that, like Kennedy, is really sacrosanct within the Democratic Party. It has been. I think what the Democrats, like me in the past, have said, we've had it with the woke party. We want a reasonable party. It's a clash from within. And I believe that if Cuomo pulls this off, and I think he can, I really think instantly he does become the front runner in 2028 for the Democratic ticket.
That's an interesting thought. If he pulls it off, it's a big if though, because Mamdani certainly has appeal with the younger voters, and if they turn out in numbers, it seems to me that he might hang on to that lead. It does seem as though turnout on Tuesday is going to be really, really important in New York.
Absolutely. This is a turnout election. It also shows that no incumbent, no big name traditional Democrat can take anything for granted. Cuomo lost it in the primary. They're working now to realize, my God, what has been done? Let's scramble to catch up. It's turnout and it's that fight. We'll see which faction, which side of the Democratic Party ultimately says this is who we are.
And in a broader sense, Gloria, what do you think Tuesday will tell us about the midterms, if anything?
I think what it shows that across the country that actually Republicans are on the rise, that wokeism is dead and over, that the Democratic Party is on the ropes. I believe it is a party of the past already, but I think it shows in these three electoral races where the Democrats should not have to be playing defense. They are not only playing defense, they are on the ropes in terms of a serious potential defeat. So I think across the country, no matter what happens on Tuesday, and I'm hoping for the best, I believe that it's a strong signal that the Democratic Party is on the way out. It is no longer the party that it once was in the past.
We shall see. It is going to be fascinating to watch. Gloria Romero, it is always so good to have you here. Thank you so much.
And go Dodgers.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.